Growing up in suburban Phoenix, Arizona, my dad had this ritual. Every single morning before school, he'd slip a tiny note into my backpack. Simple things like, "Remember, brave hearts never give up," or "Your smile is my sunshine." I was 15, way too old for that stuff, but I kept every single note in an old jewelry box under my bed. 217 notes. I counted them all the night the federal marshals dragged my father out of our house at 5:30 in the morning. My name is Emma, and this is the story of how my world shattered, how a predator disguised as a friend destroyed my family, and how I became the only person standing between my innocent father and a lifetime in federal prison. It was a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because I had a chemistry test that day, and I'd stayed up late studying. The sound of our doorbell ringing nonstop woke me up. Then came the pounding on the door. Heavy, authoritative, terrifying. My mom's scream cut through everything. I ran downstairs in my pajamas to find 6 federal agents in our living room. They had badges. They had guns. They had a warrant. My dad stood there in his old University of Arizona sweatshirt, hands behind his back, already in handcuffs. His eyes found mine across the chaos, and I saw something I'd never seen before in my father's face. Absolute, helpless fear. "Emma, sweetheart, listen to me," he managed to say before an agent pushed him toward the door. "I didn't do anything wrong. Remember that. I need you to remember that." My mother collapsed on our front porch, sobbing uncontrollably as neighbors emerged from their houses, phones out, recording everything. Our perfect suburban life, the one with the pristine lawn and the basketball hoop in the driveway, was over. Just like that. 5:30 on a Tuesday morning. The charges were massive. Embezzlement, wire fraud, money laundering. $15 million allegedly stolen from Morrison & Associates, the corporate law firm where my dad had worked as chief financial officer for 17 years. The news vans arrived by noon. By dinner time, our faces were on every local station. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came 48 hours later when my mom's colleague from the firm showed up at our door, Trevor Blackwell, senior partner at Morrison & Associates, my mom's direct supervisor and my dad's supposed best friend for over a decade. He arrived on Thursday evening with his arms full of grocery bags and this perfectly practiced expression of concern etched across his face. "Jennifer, you can't possibly go through this alone," he said, already crossing our threshold like he owned the place. "David would want someone to look after you and Emma." My mom was too shattered to protest when Trevor announced he'd be staying in our guest bedroom. Temporarily. He'd already packed 4 suitcases like he'd been planning this move for weeks. Later, I'd realize he had been planning it. Every single detail. That first dinner was a nightmare I'll never forget. Trevor sat in my dad's chair at the head of our dining room table. He poured wine into my dad's favorite glass, the one with the University of Arizona logo. He even tried to serve me food like I was a toddler. "We're going to navigate this together, sweetheart," he said, reaching across to pat my hand. His palm was cold and clammy. "Your father made some terrible choices, but that doesn't mean your future has to suffer. I'm here now." I wanted to throw up. The way he said sweetheart made my skin crawl. My dad called me Emma Bean, or kiddo, never sweetheart. But my mom just nodded, tears streaming down her face, thanking Trevor for his generosity. Within a week, Trevor had completely infiltrated our lives. He rearranged our garage to make space for his BMW. He replaced our family photos on the mantle with generic landscape paintings he claimed were less painful to look at. He threw away my dad's slippers, his reading glasses, his coffee beans, all the little pieces that made our house feel like home. But I played along. I smiled when Trevor came to my volleyball games, standing exactly where my dad used to stand in the bleachers, though he spent the entire time on his phone, never once asking if we won. I helped pack up Dad's home office because Mom said we should be grateful for Trevor's support. I served Trevor dinner and pretended to care when he talked about his day at the firm. He threw money at everything but couldn't remember basic facts about my life. Couldn't remember that I played middle blocker, not setter. Didn't know I was allergic to shellfish until I almost had an anaphylactic reaction to the expensive lobster he brought home to celebrate his promotion. A promotion that, I'd later discover, should have been my father's. Trevor installed himself as the man of the house with stunning efficiency. He changed our Wi-Fi password. He added his name to our grocery delivery account. He started picking out my mom's clothes in the morning, suggesting what would be appropriate for her to wear. Small controls that seemed helpful but were actually chains. The breaking point came 1 month after Dad's arrest. It was his birthday, his 52nd birthday. I'd been planning for weeks, saving every penny of my allowance for bus fare to the federal detention center downtown. I'd filled out all the visitor forms myself, forging Mom's signature because I knew she'd say no. When I announced my plan at breakfast, Trevor didn't even let my mom respond. "This weekend won't work," he said, not looking up from his phone. "I have the Richardson Industries merger dinner Saturday night. I need my family there. It's critical for the firm's future." "Trevor's right, honey," my mom added immediately, her voice small. "This merger could mean college tuition for you. Your father would understand." "Dad didn't steal anything," I shouted, my voice cracking. "He's innocent." Trevor set down his phone with exaggerated patience. "Emma, sweetheart, innocent men don't have offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Innocent men don't transfer $15 million out of client trust funds. Your father is guilty, and the sooner you accept that, the sooner we can all move forward." That night, Mom confiscated my bus money, said it was for my own good. I heard her crying in her bedroom afterward, but she still didn't give it back, so I tried to run away. At 2 a.m, I grabbed my backpack, climbed out my bedroom window, and started walking toward the interstate. I made it exactly 3 miles before a Phoenix PD patrol car picked me up at a 24-hour gas station. Trevor convinced my mom I needed therapy for my delusional attachment to my criminal father. He found a psychiatrist, Dr. Patricia Morrison, who, surprise, surprise, was Trevor's cousin. He installed tracking apps on my phone. He monitored all my text messages. He read my journal. 3 weeks later, everything changed. Trevor came home completely drunk one night in late April. Some celebration at the firm for closing a major deal. I found him at 2 a.m, stumbling around in Dad's home office, which he'd converted into his own workspace. He was holding something in his hands, talking to himself, slurring his words. I hid in the hallway shadows, watching through the crack in the door. "David, always so damn righteous," Trevor muttered, turning something over in his palm. Walking around with his recorder like some kind of hero. Thought he could expose me. Had to rip that phone right off him that night. Stupid, stupid David. He passed out in Dad's old leather chair, the one we'd bought together for Father's Day 3 years ago. I stood frozen in the hallway, my mind racing. What recorder? What phone? Dad's phone had been listed in the evidence inventory. Standard iPhone 11. Nothing special. But Trevor had just said he ripped it off Dad. Mom was calling from upstairs, asking if everything was okay. After she went back to bed, I knew I had maybe 10 minutes to search before Trevor woke up. My hands shook as I looked through his briefcase, his coat pockets, his desk drawers. Nothing. Then I remembered his car. I crept out to the garage, clutching Trevor's car keys I'd grabbed from the hook by the door. My heart hammered so hard I thought I might pass out. The BMW's doors unlocked with a soft beep that sounded deafening in the silent garage. His glove compartment was locked, which was weird. Who locks a glove compartment? Using a bobby pin and a YouTube tutorial I'd watched months ago, when I'd been trying to pick the lock on Dad's desk to find birthday present clues, I managed to pop it open. Inside, wrapped in a plastic freezer bag, was Dad's phone. Not his iPhone. His old Samsung Galaxy, the one he'd kept as a backup. The one he'd always said had better battery life for recording long meetings. My hands trembled as I powered it on, praying it still had charge. 3% battery. The screen lit up and I nearly dropped it in relief. I opened the voice recorder app. There was one file dated the night before Dad's arrest, March 14th, 2024. Timestamp, 11:47 p.m. I hit play. Dad's voice filled the car, tight with fear and determination. "This is David Chen, recording at 11:47 p.m. on March 14th. Trevor Blackwell just left my office. He's threatening to plant evidence in my accounts if I don't destroy the audit report I've been preparing. He knows I discovered the $15 million he's been siphoning from client funds over the past 3 years. I'm recording everything from now on. If anything happens to me, this is the truth. Then Trevor's voice, sharp and cold. By morning, David, you'll be in federal custody. I've already moved the money into your offshore accounts you don't even know exist yet. Jennifer doesn't have to know what you supposedly did. I'll take such good care of her and Emma. It'll be like you never existed. Sounds of a struggle. Dad yelling, "Get your hands off me!" Trevor snarling, "Give me that phone, give it to me now." A thud, a gasp. Then nothing but static before the recording ended. Suddenly, I heard the garage door creak behind me. My blood turned to ice. Trevor stood in the doorway, keys in hand, completely sober. The drunk act had been just that. An act. "Looking for something, sweetheart?" he asked quietly. Time seemed to slow down in that garage. Trevor blocked the only exit, his shadow stretching across the concrete floor like a dark promise. The motion sensor light flickered behind him, casting his face in harsh relief. I scrambled backward, my hips slamming into the car door handle. Pain shot through my side, but I barely felt it. My thumb found the emergency call button on my phone screen, hovering over it, while my other hand clutched Dad's phone like it was made of pure gold. Trevor moved toward Dad's old toolbox on the workbench, his movements deliberate, unhurried. He was enjoying this, I realized with horror, enjoying watching me panic. His hand drifted over the tools, hammer, wrench, screwdriver, like he was choosing a weapon from a menu. "My mom will hear everything," I blurted out, my voice high and scared. Not the confident accusation I'd practiced in my head 1,000 times. I sounded exactly like what I was. A terrified 15-year-old girl who'd gotten in way over her head. Trevor's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Will she? Jennifer's been taking those sleeping pills I got prescribed for her. She won't wake up until morning." The neighbor's motion sensor light suddenly blazed through the small garage window. We both froze. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door was taking out her trash, humming that Spanish song she always hummed at 11 p.m. Same routine every night. She'd definitely hear screaming. She'd call the police. My eyes darted between the garage door opener on the wall and Dad's phone in my hand. 3 seconds to decide. Protect the evidence or get out. Get out or fight. Trevor's breathing had changed, I noticed. That same desperate, panicked edge I'd heard in Dad's recording. Under all his control, under all his careful planning, he was scared too. I chose the car, yanked the door handle, and dove inside Mom's Honda, slamming my thumb on the lock button just as Trevor's hand left the hammer and moved toward me. The locks clicked down with a satisfying thunk. He walked calmly to the key hook by the door, but his hand trembled when he reached for Mom's car keys. That's when I knew I had a chance. Mom's voice drifted from the kitchen door. "Is everything okay out there, Emma?" Trevor's response came smooth as silk. "Everything's fine, Jennifer. Just helping Emma look for her volleyball knee pads. Go back to bed, honey." The lie rolled off his tongue like honey. I sat frozen in the locked car, realizing that I'd have to lie too now, to protect her, to buy time. But that made me complicit in his deception, didn't it? My phone buzzed. Madison was texting about tomorrow's chemistry study group. Normal life continuing while I sat trapped in my mom's car, holding evidence that could destroy everything we'd built over the past month. I fumbled with Dad's phone, trying to connect it to the car's USB port. 2% battery now. The screen kept flickering, threatening to die. My fingers were shaking so badly I could barely plug in the cable. Should I save the evidence or call 911 right now? The phone screen went black. My elbow hit the horn. The sharp honk shattered the night like a gunshot. Within seconds, Mom appeared in the garage doorway, her bathrobe tied hastily, her hair a mess, her face confused and worried. She looked between Trevor and me. "What's going on? Emma, why are you in the car? Trevor?" Trevor's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and something shifted in his expression. Something calculated. "Jennifer, honey, we need to talk about tomorrow," he said smoothly. "The family court custody evaluation. I need to sign those forms, remember? The ones that prove Emma has a stable home environment. Without my signature, they might not let David have supervised visitation. You know how important this is." My chest tightened. That familiar, crushing weight started building, the one that had plagued me since Dad's arrest. Just like after Grandpa died when I was 13. Mom recognized it immediately. Her face fell as she watched me struggle to breathe normally, my panic attack building. Trevor held up his phone so I could see the screen through the car window. A screenshot of Dad's work credit card statement. Client dinners, hotel rooms, business expenses, all legitimate. But Trevor could twist those numbers any way he wanted in court. Make them look suspicious. Make Dad look guilty of living large on stolen money. I tried to download the recording from Dad's phone to mine, but the parental control apps Trevor had installed weeks ago blocked the file transfer. An alert notification appeared on Trevor's phone. He knew exactly what I was trying to do. Another text appeared on my phone from Trevor. A reminder that he controlled our family's Spotify account, the one with all of Dad's carefully curated playlists. Years of musical memories, from my first dance recital to my middle school graduation. All of it would be deleted in 24 hours unless payment was updated. Another form of control. Another hostage. The garage felt smaller, the air thicker. Mom stood there, torn between confusion and something else. Doubt, maybe. In me. In Dad. In everything she thought she knew. "Emma, sweetheart, please come out of the car," Mom said softly. "Whatever this is about, we can talk about it in the morning. You need sleep. You have school tomorrow." "He framed Dad," I said, my voice cracking. "Trevor framed him. I have proof." Trevor's expression shifted to perfect concern. "Jennifer, this is exactly what Dr. Morrison warned us about. Emma's having another episode. The stress of the trial, the custody evaluation, it's too much for her. We should call Dr. Morrison right now. I have Dad's phone." I held it up, the screen flickering back to life. There's a recording. Trevor confessed. He admitted everything. But even as I said it, I knew how I looked. Disheveled 15-year-old having a panic attack in a locked car at midnight, making wild accusations against the man who'd been supporting our family for months. Who looked more credible? Mom's face crumpled. "Oh, Emma, baby, please stop this. Your father made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But Trevor's helping us survive. Can't you see that?" "Play the recording then," Trevor said calmly. "Let Jennifer hear whatever you think you found. I have nothing to hide." But Dad's phone chose that moment to die. The screen went black. 1% battery, then nothing. Trevor's smile was gentle, understanding, victorious. "See? There's nothing there, sweetheart. Your mind is playing tricks on you. The stress, the trauma, it's all too much. Let's get you inside. Let's get you help." I sat in that car, helpless, furious, terrified, watching my mother believe him. Watching her choose his carefully constructed reality over my desperate truth. The morning came too fast. I hadn't slept. My hands shook as I poured orange juice at breakfast, the carton slipping through my trembling fingers and splattering across the kitchen floor. Mom looked at my shaking hands, at the dark circles under my eyes that makeup couldn't hide. I looked exactly like what Trevor wanted her to see. A disturbed teenager falling apart. At Desert Ridge High School, Coach Martinez pulled me aside after first period. Trevor had called her about my home situation. As a mandatory reporter, she had to document any concerning behavior. I stood there in my volleyball practice clothes, smelling like the gym, realizing Trevor had just weaponized the entire school system against me. By lunch, the whispers had started. 3 teammates mentioned their parents didn't want them coming over to my house anymore. That unstable situation, they called it. I took my tray and ate alone by the dumpsters behind the cafeteria, away from the stairs where everyone could see me. Trevor's words from breakfast echoed in my head. "Your father had offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, Emma. The FBI doesn't make mistakes about things like that." But wait. Those accounts. I remembered now. Dad had helped set up international payment processing accounts when Morrison and Associates expanded to serve overseas clients 3 years ago. Trevor had been there for all the paperwork. He'd been the one who suggested the Cayman Islands for their favorable business laws. My best friend Madison found me after school, her face uncomfortable. I need to tell you something," she said, not meeting my eyes. "My mom works at Morrison and Associates in HR. She's up for Director of Personnel. Trevor's on the promotion committee. She needs his recommendation." The unspoken message was clear. Don't drag my family into your mess. I understand. I told her, even though I didn't. Even though it felt like everyone I trusted was choosing safety over truth. That night, I was searching through Dad's old files on our shared family computer, the one Trevor hadn't thought to check, when a notification popped up. Cloud backup complete. Dad's phone had automatically synced to his Google Drive before the arrest, back when it still had battery. The recording was there, backed up, safe, downloadable. I smiled. Just a small smile of relief that someone was finally on my side, even if it was just technology. The school guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, saw that smile through the library window where she was finishing paperwork. She wrote something in her notebook. Later, I'd learned she'd documented it as inappropriate emotional response to discussing father's criminal charges, possible dissociative behavior. My phone buzzed. Trevor. 2 words that made my blood run cold. We need to talk. The next week blurred into a nightmare of calculated moves and countermoves. Trevor started attending my parent-teacher conferences alone, charming every single educator with stories about his dedication to step-parenting during this difficult time. He showed Ms. Chen, my English teacher, my creative writing journal where I'd written a short story about feeling trapped in a house with a monster. Fiction, obviously. A metaphor for teenage anxiety. But in Trevor's hands, it became evidence of my deteriorating mental state. The polygraph examiner came to our house. Mom passed. She genuinely believed Trevor had been working late at the office the night of Dad's arrest. I passed too. I knew Trevor had been drinking, had found the recording. 2 truths that couldn't both exist, but they did. The examiner noted this as concerning inconsistency in family narrative. Someone, I'm betting it was Trevor, anonymously sent my old text messages to the family court. Texts to Madison where I'd complained about Dad being too strict about my grades, about him missing my volleyball games for work. Normal teenage venting. But in the custody evaluation, it became evidence of my long-standing resentment toward father figure authority. The 7-year-old from next door, little Sofia Rodriguez, tugged on my backpack at the bus stop one morning. "Emma, why did your daddy steal money?" she asked innocently. My stomach dropped. "What?" Mr. Trevor explained it at the block party. He said your daddy took money that wasn't his, so the police had to arrest him. My mommy says it's like when I took candy from the store without paying. Trevor had been doing PR work in the neighborhood, explaining the situation to concerned parents, making sure everyone knew his version of the story first. Late one night, desperate and exhausted, I remembered something. When I was little, maybe 7 or 8, Mom and Dad had installed a nanny-cam in the living room, just for a few months when we'd had concerns about a babysitter. The camera was long gone, but the cloud storage account might still exist. I found the login information in Dad's old files. The account was still active. The camera had apparently continued recording and uploading for years before the battery finally died. Months of footage stored in the cloud, forgotten by everyone. I scrolled back through the timeline. March, February, January. There. January 15th, 2024. 2 months before Dad's arrest. Trevor was in our living room, alone. He thought everyone was asleep. I watched, barely breathing, as he stood in front of the mirror above our fireplace, practicing. "Jennifer, you can't go through this alone," he said to his reflection, adjusting his expression to perfect concern. "I'm so worried about Emma. David's behavior has been so erratic lately. Have you noticed?" He did it again. And again. Rehearsing different lines, different facial expressions, like an actor preparing for the role of his life. The role of the concerned friend, the caring colleague, the family savior. I tried to submit the footage to family court. The clerk sent it back. Any video evidence submitted by a minor had to be authenticated by a parent or legal guardian. Mom refused to watch it, said she couldn't handle any more stress. I started digging deeper into Trevor's past. Dad's Amazon account was still logged into our family computer. In his order history, I found something strange. 2 identical Samsung Galaxy phones ordered as Christmas gifts 3 years ago. One delivered to Dad at home. One scheduled for delivery to Trevor Blackwell at Morrison & Associates. That second phone never arrived. The order had been canceled the day before Dad's arrest. Trevor's LinkedIn profile didn't add up either. He claimed to be at a legal conference in San Diego the week of Dad's arrest. But But the hotel receipt photos he'd posted showed different dates if you looked closely at the timestamps in the metadata. He'd posted photos from a conference that had happened 3 months earlier, trying to establish an alibi that didn't exist. But every piece of evidence I found, Trevor had a counter for. Dr. Morrison, the psychiatrist Trevor had chosen for me, wrote in her notes that I had a concerning fixation on my stepfather figure that interfered with healthy family bonding. She had a legal obligation to report this to the court. She looked genuinely sorry when she told me, but she did it anyway. I tried recording Trevor at dinner one night, phone propped against my water glass. He caught the reflection of the recording indicator in the microwave door. He didn't say anything, just smiled at me and asked if I was enjoying my meal. That word, sweetheart, dripping with false concern, with threat, with control. Mom's doctor appointment ran over one afternoon. The family court hearing was at 4. I could either accept a ride from Trevor or miss the hearing entirely and lose the chance to advocate for Dad's visitation rights. I sat in Trevor's BMW, watching him adjust Dad's old watch on his wrist. The silver one Mom had given Dad when I was born, engraved with my birth date. Mom had said Trevor should have something to remember Dad by, like Dad was already dead. As we drove, Trevor made an offer. "Emma, sweetheart, I know this has been hard on you. I want to help. Really, I do." He glanced at me, his expression almost kind. "You can keep one recording of your dad's voice. Just one. Your choice which one. His voicemail greeting, maybe. Or that video from your 13th birthday. But you have to stop this investigation. Stop accusing me. Stop hurting your mother." He called it his generosity. His mercy. Choose one memory or keep fighting a losing battle. I refused. I want my dad back, not a recording. The court mediator wrote that down. Noted that I preferred conflict over preserving positive memories. That I was choosing ongoing trauma over healthy healing processes. Everything was falling apart faster than I could piece it back together. Dad's sister, Aunt Michelle, called from Seattle. She was crying. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I can't testify. Someone filed an anonymous complaint with my HR department. They're saying I've been spreading conspiracy theories about Morrison and Associates, making false allegations against a partner. I could lose my job. I have 3 kids to feed. I can't risk it. I'm so sorry." The recording's metadata showed March 14th as the date. But I remembered something Dad always did. After Mom's cancer scare 5 years ago, Dad set all his devices one day ahead. He never wanted to miss another anniversary, another important appointment, another moment that mattered. So his phone always showed the next day's date. Trevor's lawyer was already preparing to use this against us. "The recording is clearly fabricated," they'd argue. "The date doesn't even match the alleged incident. I found Mom's journal while searching for Dad's old financial records. An entry from January 2024, 2 months before the arrest. I'm worried about David. He's become so paranoid about Trevor, checking the books constantly, making wild accusations about missing money. Is this early onset dementia? His father had it young. I don't know what to do. Trevor says I should encourage David to see a neurologist." Her own words, her own concerns would be used against Dad now. Evidence of his supposedly unstable mental state before the arrest. But reading further, I understood. Dad hadn't been paranoid. He'd been documenting Trevor's pattern of financial irregularities, not to build a lawsuit, but to protect the other employees at Morrison and Associates, to make sure they wouldn't take the fall for Trevor's crimes. There were spreadsheets attached, printed out and tucked into the journal. Detailed analyses of discrepancies in client accounts, patterns of money movement that made no sense unless someone was stealing. Dad had been trying to protect everyone, even Trevor's other potential victims. Grandma Sullivan, Mom's mother, flew in from Boston for a family support visit. She pulled me aside in the kitchen one afternoon, pressing $200 into my hand. "For whatever you need, sweetheart," she whispered. "Bus fare, legal help, whatever." But when Mom walked into the room, Grandma's expression changed completely. "She couldn't lose her only daughter," she whispered later. She had to publicly support Mom's decisions, even if privately she had doubts. The money was all she could offer. I created a fake Instagram account, a Phoenix truth seeker, and spent weeks building it up with generic travel photos and inspirational quotes. Then I reached out to Trevor's ex-girlfriend, Nicole, who I'd found through mutual friends. Started with innocent comments on her photos. Built rapport slowly. Finally, casually mentioned I knew Trevor Blackwell. She called me within an hour. "Oh my God, is he still playing the devoted family man act?" Nicole asked, her voice sharp with old anger. "Let me tell you about Trevor Blackwell. 3 years we dated. He tracked my every move, isolated me from my friends, convinced me my own family was toxic. Classic control freak. I only got out because my brother physically removed me from that situation. She couldn't testify. Restraining order had expired, no physical evidence of abuse, just her word against his. But she gave me names of 2 other women. A pattern. At CVS Pharmacy one afternoon, I accidentally on purpose ran into Trevor's mother, Patricia, picking up prescriptions. Small talk revealed the medication. Anxiety meds, sleeping pills, antidepressants. All prescribed 3 years ago. Trevor's always been high-strung, she confided, grateful for a listening ear. Even as a boy. But it got worse after his father left us. He became obsessed with success, with proving himself, with being better than everyone. Dad's old phone was still logged into our family computer. Trevor had never thought to check. The voice memos app had synced before the arrest. In the recently deleted folder, I found 6 more recordings. 6 separate conversations where Trevor had threatened Dad, manipulated situations, gaslit him about the missing money. Everything was there. A complete record of Trevor's campaign against my father. Ellen Ramirez, Dad's former executive assistant at Morrison & Associates, reached out through a lawyer. She had information about Trevor asking her to notarize backdated documents, to alter time cards, to cover up late-night office entries. But she wanted immunity before talking. Her own involvement was too deep. She'd believed Trevor's lies about Dad's alleged theft. She'd helped unknowingly in the frame-up. I missed my crucial therapy appointment with Dr. Morrison while meeting with Ellen's lawyer downtown. Dr. Morrison marked me as non-compliant with treatment. The custody evaluation was immediately downgraded. Dad's chances of supervised visitation dropped to almost 0. My college savings account, the one Dad had been building since I was born, emptied fast. Lawyer retainer fees, private investigator consultation, digital forensics expert. The lawyer quit anyway when Trevor threatened her firm's biggest client. At Dad's favorite restaurant, the Cactus Rose Diner, where we'd gone every Sunday for brunch, I confronted Trevor's executive assistant, a nervous woman named Donna. The elderly waitress who'd served us for years, Rosita, had a heart episode watching us argue. An ambulance came. Paramedics, police, the whole scene. Trevor used that too. Emma's emotional outbursts are traumatizing innocent people, he told the family court judge. This poor waitress nearly died from stress. School suspended me for 3 days for emotional disturbances affecting the learning environment. I'd gotten into a screaming match with the guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, when she suggested I was fabricating stories about Trevor for attention. The homeschool tutor they assigned? Mrs. Chen, Trevor's neighbor. He recommended her personally. Trevor announced my bedroom needed mold inspection after I'd had a bad cough for a week. I moved to the basement couch while he installed what he called air quality monitors, little devices with blinking red lights. But when I looked up the model number online, they were actually security cameras. He was recording everything I did. Mom found me crying in the laundry room one night, folding Trevor's expensive shirts. She begged me to stop. Please, Emma, please just let your father face his consequences in peace. Let us move on. You're killing me with this stress. Look at me. I've lost 15 pounds. I can't sleep, I can't work, just stop. Her hands shook as she spoke. I realized she genuinely believed I was the problem, not Trevor. He'd convinced her so thoroughly that I was having delusions, that I was mentally unstable, that I was the one tearing the family apart. My investigation into Morrison & Associates' financial records had triggered an internal audit of the entire firm. Madison's mom, Susan, worked in the HR department. The audit scrutiny had caused massive stress. Madison sent me a photo of her mother crying at their kitchen table, surrounded by legal paperwork. Because of you, Madison texted. My parents are considering divorce over the legal fees. My mom might lose her job. Was your vendetta worth destroying my family too? I kept going anyway. Even knowing Madison might lose her home, even knowing her parents might split up. The truth mattered more than friendships. But at what cost? During a mandatory counseling session, the school counselor asked me directly, Emma, what if your father really did take the money? What if you've built this entire conspiracy theory because you can't accept that your dad is capable of crime? The question hung in the air. I couldn't immediately answer. For the first time since this nightmare began, doubt crept in. Tiny, insidious, terrifying doubt. I admitted to Mom that I'd considered recording Trevor without his consent. Showed her my moral struggle, my decision against it. She looked at me with something like pity. Oh, sweetheart, don't you see? This obsession isn't healthy. Dr. Morrison is right. You need help. The watch recording, Dad's Samsung phone recording, revealed something else when I listened more carefully with headphones. In the background, before the confrontation with Trevor, Dad was on another call. Yes, I know Emma's having trouble at school, he said to someone. The bullying situation. I should have addressed it sooner. I've been too focused on this investigation, on gathering evidence against Trevor. I should have been there for her. My dad had known I was being bullied by some junior girls about my clothes, my grades, everything. He'd known, and he'd been too busy building his case against Trevor to help me. Even in his quest for truth, he'd failed me in some ways. Trevor's lawyer filed an emergency motion. Due to my rapidly deteriorating mental state, the family court hearing needed to be moved up. My lawyer, David Santos, was conveniently on vacation in Bermuda. Completely unreachable, almost like someone had paid for that vacation. Given him tickets he couldn't refuse. Looking at Trevor during the preliminary hearing, I saw something unexpected in his face. He genuinely believed he was saving our family. All those years of watching Dad work late, miss my games, miss dinners, miss life. Trevor had seen an opening to be the better man, the better father figure. His rage came from Dad rejecting his mentorship, from Dad threatening the image Trevor had built of himself as the family savior. It was never really about money. It was about ego, about proving he was worthier of our love than my actual father. To match Trevor's tactics, I had to become calculating too. Had to befriend his elderly mother, Patricia, at her assisted living facility in Scottsdale. Sat through bingo games and listened to her ramble about Trevor's childhood, his money troubles, how he'd borrowed $60,000 from her retirement account and never paid it back. But he's doing so well now, she said, patting my hand. Taking care of your family. He always wanted a daughter. You're lucky to have him. Lucky, I wanted to scream. When I finally proved Trevor had lied about something small, a detail about a client meeting where he'd claimed to be at a restaurant that had actually been closed for renovations, the victory felt hollow, because later that day, I saw him at Greenwood Cemetery, standing at my grandfather's grave. He was sobbing, real, painful sobs. Both of us lost. Both of us crying over graves, literal and metaphorical. Trevor's countermotion gained traction with the family court judge. I was a danger to the household, he argued. I'd attempted to run away. I'd missed therapy sessions. I'd made false accusations. The judge seemed to agree. Everything would come down to Mom's testimony about the night of Dad's arrest. What she'd seen. What she believed. Trevor's mother, Patricia, texted me after the hearing. I know what my son did to your family. He destroyed my retirement too. But sweetie, you're hurting innocent employees with your investigation. Morrison and Associates employs 200 people. Families depend on those jobs. Can you live with yourself if the firm collapses because of your crusade? Dad's former colleagues were divided. Half of them had suspected Trevor all along, but stayed quiet to keep their jobs. The other half protected themselves by supporting Trevor's version of events. Nobody wanted to be the next target. Nobody wanted to risk their career, their mortgage, their kids' college funds. The judge explained burden of proof. Clear and convincing evidence, Miss Chen. The recording alone isn't enough. It could be fabricated, could be taken out of context, could be misunderstood. You need corroboration, multiple witnesses, documentation, something beyond one audio file. I called Dad's client, Mr. Harrison Chen, no relation, CEO of Chen Industries. He'd made millions from Dad's investment advice over 15 years. He owed everything to my father. He agreed to look at the Morrison and Associates books once. just once. He found a partial audit trail, evidence of money being moved through shell companies, but he wouldn't testify. "My visa status is too precarious, Emma," he explained, his English heavily accented. "I'm on an investor visa. Any legal trouble, even as a witness, could get me deported. I have a wife, 3 children, all citizens, but I'm not. I can't risk it. I'm so sorry." The audit trail revealed something else. Something I'd never known. Trevor had recordings of Mom's therapy sessions from 5 years ago, after her cancer diagnosis, after Grandpa died. Private, painful sessions where she'd discussed feeling suicidal. Discussed feeling like a burden to Dad and me. Trevor had these recordings. He'd told Dad if he fought the charges, if he tried to prove his innocence, Trevor would leak these recordings. Would make Mom look like an unfit mother in family court. Would destroy her professionally, socially, emotionally. Dad had stayed quiet to protect Mom. Had taken the fall to keep Trevor from weaponizing her darkest moments. In Dad's old BMW, the one we'd kept in storage, planning to give me for my 16th birthday, I found something in the Bluetooth connection history. Trevor's phone had connected to the car's system 3 times. The night before Dad's arrest. The night of the arrest. And once more, a week later. There were recordings, automatic call recordings from the car's system. Trevor calling someone, planning his next moves while sitting in Dad's driver's seat like he already owned everything we had. Dad had spent his final free days installing security systems, gathering evidence, building his case. He'd known what was coming. He'd chosen to gather evidence rather than spend time with us. He'd chosen justice over safety, stayed to protect Mom and me despite knowing the risk. He knew the cost and paid it anyway. In court, I had to make an impossible choice. To prove Trevor's pattern of control, I had to reveal Mom's past mental health crisis. Had to establish how Trevor gathered intimate information about everyone, how he used their vulnerabilities as weapons. I stood at the witness stand, looking at Mom's face. She didn't know what I was about to say. "Your Honor, Trevor Blackwell has recordings of my mother's therapy sessions from 5 years ago," I said, my voice shaking. Private sessions where she discussed suicidal thoughts after my grandfather's death and her cancer diagnosis. Trevor threatened to release these recordings if my father fought the charges. That's why Dad stayed silent. He was protecting my mother. Mom's face went white. Trevor's expression crumbled just for a second before he recovered. But that second was enough. His lawyer jumped up. "Objection, these are unsubstantiated claims." "Are they, Mr. Blackwell?" The judge interrupted, looking at Trevor. "Do you have such recordings?" Trevor's silence was damning. His lawyer whispered urgently in his ear, I was given those recordings by Jennifer herself," Trevor finally said. "She wanted me to understand what she'd been through, what David had put her through by being absent during her crisis. I never threatened anyone." "Mom, is that true?" I asked, looking at her. Mom shook her head slowly. "I never gave Trevor any recordings. I didn't even know recordings existed. My therapist doesn't record sessions. It's against her policy." The judge made a note. "Mr. Blackwell, how exactly did you obtain these alleged recordings if not from Mrs. Chen?" Trevor's lawyer called for a recess. During the break, I presented more evidence. Dad's BMW Bluetooth logs showing Trevor's calls. The timestamps matched exactly with calls to Mom, planning his family integration strategy while sitting in Dad's car. Trevor's notarized statement to the FBI swore he'd never entered Dad's vehicle. Sworn testimony, under penalty of perjury. The Bluetooth logs proved otherwise. Perjury in a federal document. His face crumbled as he realized his carefully constructed lies were falling apart. I presented each piece of evidence calmly, methodically. No satisfaction in it, just exhaustion. As Mom realized the depth of Trevor's betrayal, watching her face cycle through shock, denial, anger, grief, I felt no victory. Just profound sadness for everything we'd all lost. Trevor's support network visibly distanced themselves in the courtroom. His lawyer asked for a sidebar. His mother left the courtroom crying. The FBI agent assigned to Dad's case, Special Agent Rodriguez, approached the judge. "Your Honor, based on this new evidence, the Bureau would like to reopen the investigation into Mr. David Chen's case with a focus on potential evidence fabrication and witness tampering." Both sides prepared for a federal criminal trial that would go beyond family court. A trial that would examine not just Dad's alleged crimes, but Trevor's actual ones. We all showed the wear. My hair had started falling out from stress. Literal clumps in the shower drain. Trevor's hair had gone completely gray seemingly overnight. He'd lost 20 pounds. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years in 10 months. The truth emerged slowly through forensic accounting. Trevor's embezzlement went back a decade. Not just 15 million. Try 40 million. Layer after layer of financial manipulation. Client companies gutted, retirement funds stolen, investment accounts drained. Trevor's secretary, Donna, the nervous woman I'd confronted at the diner, finally admitted she'd known. "But my son has special needs," she sobbed on the stand. "The insurance through Morrison and Associates is the only reason he gets his therapy, his medications. I couldn't afford to have a conscience. I couldn't afford to lose that job." The judge ordered psychiatric evaluations for everyone. Mom, me, Trevor, even Dad. We were all considered potentially traumatized, all needing professional assessment of our mental states. Digital forensics experts authenticated every recording. The metadata confirmed the timeline, even with Dad's quirk of setting dates ahead. Modern voice analysis confirmed the voices were Trevor and Dad. No AI manipulation, no deepfake technology. Truth was truth, even when it came from broken sources. But the investigation went deeper and darker. 10 years ago, Trevor's mentor at Morrison and Associates, a senior partner named Thomas Hartley, died in a car accident. Single vehicle crash on a rainy night. The accident happened exactly one day after Hartley confronted Trevor about missing funds in a client account. Nobody had connected the dots until now. The car had been examined, deemed an accident. But when investigators looked again, they found evidence of brake line tampering that the original investigation had missed. The case was reopened as a potential homicide. During his psychological evaluation, Trevor broke down completely. The psychiatrist's report was chilling. Mr. Blackwell exhibits a profound narcissistic personality disorder with sociopathic tendencies. He genuinely believes he deserves everything he's taken. Views his crimes not as theft, but as correcting cosmic unfairness. In his mind, he's more intelligent, more capable, more deserving than his victims. Taking their money, their families, their lives, it's not criminal to him. It's justice. They asked me to write a victim impact statement for Trevor's sentencing hearing. I stayed up all night writing, rewriting, trying to find the right words. In the end, I kept it simple. Your Honor, I request maximum security placement for Trevor Blackwell, but with mandatory mental health treatment. He's sick, not just evil. My father would want him to get help. That's the kind of man my father is. Someone who believes in rehabilitation, even for those who tried to destroy him. Dad was released on bail pending a new trial. The charges against him were dropped entirely 2 weeks later when the FBI concluded he'd been framed. I gained temporary guardianship through Grandma Sullivan while Mom entered an intensive therapy program in California. We were a family in pieces, living apart, trying to heal separately before we could come back together. The Phoenix community divided into camps. Those who'd ignored the signs of Trevor's manipulation. Those who'd tried to help but been shut down. Those who'd enabled Trevor, knowingly or unknowingly. Those who'd suspected but stayed silent out of fear. Half the Morrison and Associates firm had known something was wrong. A survey revealed that 73 employees out of 200 had noticed suspicious financial activity but never reported it. Fear of retaliation. Fear of being wrong. Fear of losing jobs in a competitive market. In therapy, real therapy, with a trauma specialist, Dr. Elena Vasquez, whom I chose myself, Mom and I started rebuilding. The trust was broken, but not irreparable. She'd been a victim too. We both had been. Trevor had played us against each other perfectly. He found your weaknesses, Dr. Vasquez explained in our family session. Your father's dedication to work. Your mother's fear of abandonment after her father's death. Your adolescent need for stability. He weaponized normal human vulnerabilities. Restraining orders were issued. Financial restitution ordered, though Trevor had spent or hidden most of the money. Dad's reputation was restored, but the damage to his career was permanent. No major firm would hire him now. Too much scandal, even though he was innocent. Trevor received 25 to life in federal prison with mandatory psychiatric treatment. The judge called it one of the most calculated, cold-blooded schemes of manipulation and financial fraud she'd seen in her career. But none of it felt like victory. Just the end of one nightmare and the beginning of a long, painful recovery. 6 months after Trevor's sentencing, I spoke at a victim advocacy group in downtown Phoenix. 200 people attended. Victims of financial fraud, domestic manipulation, coercive control. The room was full of people who understood, who'd survived their own predators. Recognizing coercive control saved my family, I told them, my voice steady despite the painful memories. Learning about how predators isolate their targets, how they make you complicit in your own manipulation, how they weaponize systems that should protect you, that knowledge gave me tools to fight back. I talked about the warning signs, the way Trevor had gradually taken control of our finances, our communication, our relationships, the way he'd positioned himself as the solution to problems he'd created. If someone is trying to isolate you from family or friends, that's a red flag, I said. If someone monitors your communication, controls your finances, or makes you feel crazy for questioning their behavior, those are red flags. If someone uses your vulnerabilities, your mental health, your past trauma against you, that's coercive control. Dad was rebuilding his practice as an independent financial consultant from our home office. Fewer clients, less prestige, but honest work. He'd started a blog about white-collar crime prevention. His story was becoming a case study in business schools about corporate fraud. Mom completed her 6-month intensive therapy program in San Diego. She moved back home in September. Tentative, careful, but committed to rebuilding. We had family therapy sessions twice a week. Learning to trust each other again. Learning to recognize the signs of manipulation so we'd never be vulnerable like that again. Trevor sent letters from prison. Not to me or Mom, but to Dad. Apologizing. Explaining. Justifying. The psychiatric treatment was helping him understand his own pathology. He wrote. He was learning about his disorder, his trauma, his twisted logic. Dad never responded. Just filed the letters in a folder. Evidence of Trevor's continued pattern, even in prison. Madison and I started talking again. Her mother kept her job at Morrison & Associates. The firm had restructured under new management, implementing strict oversight and transparent accounting. Madison's parents were in marriage counseling, but they were working through it. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, Madison told me over coffee at our favorite cafe. I was scared. I was protecting my family, but you were right to keep fighting. I understand why you made that choice, I told her. I don't blame you. Everyone was doing their best to survive. The Phoenix Police Department started using our case and training programs about financial fraud and family manipulation. I did a video for them, talking about my experience, hoping it would help other families recognize the signs earlier than we did. Aunt Michelle and her 3 kids visited from Seattle for Christmas. She cried when she saw Dad, apologizing again for not being able to testify, for not being brave enough to risk her job. You have 3 kids to protect, Dad told her. I understand. Emma and Jennifer are safe now. That's what matters. The Cactus Rose Diner held a welcome home party for Dad in November. Rosita, the elderly waitress who'd had the heart episode during my confrontation with Trevor, brought out a special cake. Your daughter is fierce, she told Dad in Spanish-accented English. She fought like a warrior for you. You raised a good one. Dad started coming to my volleyball games again. Standing in the bleachers where he used to stand, but different now. More present, more aware. The investigation had taught him that work, money, success, none of it mattered more than family. He brought a notebook to games and wrote down every single play I made. After each match, we'd go over them together. His way of making up for lost time. I turned 16 in December. Dad surprised me with the BMW we'd been storing, freshly detailed with a giant bow on the hood. But more than that, he gave me something else. A framed collection of all 217 notes he'd ever put in my lunchbox. Roar means I love you in dinosaur. Brave hearts never give up. Your smile is my sunshine. All of them, carefully preserved, professionally mounted. I thought I'd lost these when Trevor made me pack up your room, I said, crying as I read through them. I kept copies, Dad admitted, in a safety deposit box at the bank, along with every report card, every drawing, every photo. I was always planning for us to be together again, always believing you'd save me. Because that's who you are, Emma Bean. A fighter. Mom got her job back at Morrison & Associates, working under new management in a different department. She started a support group for families affected by financial fraud, using her experience to help others navigate the trauma, the betrayal, the recovery. Trevor's other victims started coming forward. The 2 ex-girlfriends Nicole had mentioned. 3 more women from his past, all with similar stories of control, manipulation, isolation, a pattern stretching back 20 years. Dr. Vasquez suggested I write everything down, all of it, every detail, every emotion, every lesson learned, not just for therapy, but because our story could help other families. Trauma becomes post-traumatic growth when we transform it into purpose, she explained. Your pain can prevent someone else's pain. That's powerful. So I wrote, this story, our story, 10,000 words of nightmare and survival and justice and healing. I'm 18 now, starting college in the fall at Arizona State University. Criminal justice major. I want to be a federal prosecutor. Want to put people like Trevor away before they can destroy families like mine. Dad's consulting business is growing. He's advising companies on fraud prevention, internal controls, ethical financial management. Turning his nightmare into expertise. His betrayal into purpose. Mom and I are closer than we've ever been. The trauma forced us to communicate honestly, to work through old resentments, to build something stronger than what we had before. We still have bad days. Days when Mom can't get out of bed, paralyzed by betrayal and guilt. Days when I have panic attacks, remembering Trevor's cold eyes in the garage, his hand on that hammer. Days when Dad stares at old photos, mourning the year we lost. The innocence we can never get back. But we have good days too. Family dinners where we laugh. Volleyball games where we cheer. Movie nights on the couch. Small, precious moments of normal life. Trevor's case became a landmark. The prosecution used it to establish new legal precedents about coercive control in financial fraud cases. His psychological evaluation became required reading in FBI training on white-collar crime. The $40 million he stole? Most of it's still missing. Hidden in offshore accounts, cryptocurrency wallets, shell companies we'll probably never find. His victims are still fighting for restitution, still healing from financial ruin. But some justice is better than no justice. Last month, I visited Dad at his office. He was preparing a presentation for a corporation about internal fraud detection. On his desk, next to his computer, was a framed photo of the 3 of us, Mom, Dad, and me, from my 8th grade graduation. Before everything fell apart. I'm proud of you, Emma, he said, looking up from his work. Not just for saving me, for who you've become, for turning trauma into strength. I learned from the best, I told him. You never gave up. Even in federal detention, even when everyone believed you were guilty, you never gave up. Because I knew you wouldn't give up on me, he said. That's what family means. Fighting for each other even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Mrs. Rodriguez, our neighbor, waves to me every morning when I leave for school. She stopped me last week, pressing a small wrapped box into my hands. For you, mija, she said. Thank you for teaching this neighborhood what courage looks like. Inside was a silver necklace with a lioness pendant. A note read, for the girl who roared when everyone expected her to be silent. I wear it every day. The FBI agent who originally arrested Dad, Special Agent Martinez, sent Dad a formal apology. The Bureau had moved too fast, believed manufactured evidence, failed to investigate thoroughly. They'd learned from the mistakes. We're implementing new protocols? Your daughter's persistence saved you, Martinez wrote. She's exactly the kind of person we need in law enforcement. Please tell her she has an open invitation to join the FBI after college. I might take him up on that. My therapist asked me in a recent session if I forgive Trevor. I thought about it for a long time. I understand him, I finally said. I understand the pathology, the trauma that created him, the mental illness that drove him. But forgiveness? That's still a work in progress. Forgiveness isn't about him, Dr. Vasquez reminded me. It's about releasing the power he has over you. Not forgetting, not excusing, just choosing not to let hatred consume you. I'm working on that. Some days are easier than others. The jewelry box under my bed still holds all 217 of Dad's notes. I've added new ones. Notes I write to myself on hard days. Reminders that I survived, that I'm strong, that truth wins eventually, even when it takes everything you have to reach it. Brave hearts never give up. Dad was right about that. Still is. Sometimes I think about Trevor sitting in his cell in federal prison. I wonder if he understands what he took from us, if he grasps the magnitude of his crimes, if the psychiatric treatment is actually helping him see reality clearly for the first time in his adult life. Mostly, I try not to think about him at all, because this story isn't really about Trevor. It's about survival, about a 15-year-old girl who refused to let an innocent man go to prison, about a family that fell apart and clawed their way back together, about justice, finally, after months of injustice. It's about the power of truth when one person refuses to give up on it. I start college in 3 months. Criminal justice major, victim advocacy minor. I've already been invited to speak at a national conference on domestic violence and coercive control. My story is becoming larger than me, larger than our family. It's becoming a tool to help others recognize manipulation, to fight back against predators, to never give up on truth even when everyone says you're wrong. Dad framed one of his old notes and put it on my desk. Roar means I love you in dinosaur. I roared, I loved, I survived. And that's the real story. To anyone watching this who's in a situation like mine was, trapped with someone who's manipulating your family, isolated from help, feeling crazy because everyone believes the predator instead of you, please hear this. You're not crazy. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Keep evidence safe. Reach out for help. Even if the first 10 people don't believe you, the 11th might. Don't give up. Coercive control is real. Financial abuse is real. Psychological manipulation is real. And it can happen to anyone, even smart people, even strong people, even whole families. If you see signs of it in your life or someone else's life, someone isolating you from friends, family, someone controlling finances or monitoring communications, someone making you doubt your own memory or perception, someone using your vulnerabilities against you, someone who seems too good to be true at first, then gradually takes control. Those are red flags. Get help. Get out. Get safe. Resources. National Domestic Violence Hotline. 1-800-799-7233. Financial Fraud Hotline. 1-877-382-4357. Crisis Text Line. Text HOME to 741741. Rain Sexual Assault. Hotline. 1-800-656-4673. You deserve safety. You deserve truth. You deserve freedom from manipulation. I'm Emma Chen. I survived. You can too. Thank you for listening to our story. If this helped even one person recognize coercive control in their life, then every painful moment was worth it. Remember, brave hearts never give up. Roar loud. Someone will hear you.